Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Reality. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but life gets in the way. Anyways, this episode, we're going to talk about Anthros and beast folk, as well as animal people, or animal people as they're sometimes called. So, like I said, first up, what are they? What are Anthros? Well, Anthro is actually a bit of a short term for anthropomorphic characters. And basically, it's when we take something that isn't human, but add human characteristics to it. And I suppose there's a lot of different types of Anthros and ways to make them. One possible example would be, say, the reason Thomas and his train friends, or where you have trains that have eyes, noses, and mouths, and they communicate with one another. Or, indeed, any other vehicle, like the Cars movies, where you have talking cars. I suppose that even goes with Toy Story as well, considering that the toys are alive, as Sid found out in the end. But, in truth, when a lot of people talk about Anthros, they're talking about humanoid animals, and I'm not talking about humans or elves or dwarves or orcs or other things that have a humanoid build. No, I'm talking about humanoids that have, well, the animals that basically have human characteristics, usually being bipedal, capable of speaking. For instance, you got Bugs Bunny and you got Mickey Mouse, and those came out during the late 20s, early 30s. So that's got a bit of history. In fact, one could argue that the concept of Anthros is actually thousands of years old. Mythology is filled with such things. And mind you, I'm not going to show all of these videos, all of this, because some of it is not exactly safe for work, because history isn't always safe for work. Let's see. Well, basically, a lot of Egyptian gods, and presumably a number of other Mesopotamian gods, and in fact, in all over, we have what are beings that have human bodies but have the heads of animals, such as Osiris. I think it's Osiris, or was it Horus? Anyways, one of them had the head of a hawk, and I think the other one had the head of a falcon. You know, some sort of bird of prey. Another, I think one of the gods of the dead had the head of a vulture. I know one of them had the head of a crocodile. There's Anubis, head of a jackal. Basset, head of a cat or a lion, depending on which depiction you're looking at. And basically all over the ancient world, throughout Africa, throughout Europe, throughout Asia, throughout North America and South America, you have beings that, as I said, have the body of a human, but have the head of an animal. And let's see here, over in let's see here, for instance, among the Mayans and the Aztecs, there is a jaguar god that's got the head of a jaguar, humanoid body, head of a jaguar. And there's another one god that's got the head of an eagle. And in North America, we have depictions of these trickster deities, of at least one trickster deity that's essentially based off a coyote. Name an animal and a location, odds are you are going to find that animal doing something in one form or another. So, concept of the Anthro been around for millennia, at the very least. We just didn't call them Anthros back then. So, just how popular are Anthros? Well, whether we know it or not, a lot of us are actually interested in Anthros. If you're a child of the 90s, you can't have not heard of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, that, late 80s goes on. There's even a number of spin-offs and competitors, some of which I enjoy. For me, it was the Biker Mice Mars. When I was a kid, I watch them. Even had a few VHS tapes of a few of the episodes. God, I wish I could get them again. There's the animated Mighty Ducks, which essentially, instead of having them being a bunch of teenagers with a bit of an issue, we have them being aliens from another dimension who are humanoid ducks. Sort of like Howard the Duck, only with hockey. And as I said, and we also had the Thundercats, which apparently proved popular enough that I'll be honest, I like the guy. And like I said, turned popular enough, they made what is essentially a remake. They made a remake. Lasted only about a season, of course. But still, like I said, kids of the time, they liked that stuff. And even today, they still like it. In fact, only a few years ago, 3 different studios, Disney, DreamWorks, and Illumination, they each made a movie with anthropomorphic characters. From Disney, we have Zootopia, which is about a rabbit officer and a fox con artist who team up to stop a big crime. From Illumination, we have Sing, which is about a bunch of different characters, which include a gorilla, a porcupine, a pig, Where is that mouse at? Oh, a mouse and an elephant, to say nothing about this koala, who have a dream to be singers. And granted, Zootopia deals with mammals. This one encompasses the whole gambit. There's let's say there's reptiles, there's insects, there's invertebrates, and like snails. Yeah, actually, I wonder about the food chain in that one. And from DreamWorks, we have Kung Fu Panda 3, which is about Po, who encounters a bunch of other pandas, which includes his long-lost biological father, and he and a couple of the other members of the Furious Five have to figure out how to train these pandas so that way they can defeat a very dangerous Kung Fu master. Now, there is a bit of a scale, as it were, where anthropomorphism is concerned. On the far end, on one far end, you have humans, like you and me. And on the other end, we have actual animals, such as the image of these deer behind me. Hopefully the glaring isn't too much, but odds are, take a look to your left or to your right. If you got a cat that just crawled across the screen, that's the other far end. And then there's the other degrees. Just before you get to regular animals, you have what's known as talking animals, such as Scooby-Doo. And there's even some degrees of separation within that talking animal range, where you have talking animals who speak animal, as in they can talk to other animals, but they can't speak to humans, or at least humans can't understand them. And then you got those that, like Scooby-Doo, who can talk to humans. Although, some cases, they can either speak clearly, or they have some sort of speech impediment, like Scooby seems to. With his ruh-roh. But as you get more towards human, you have a bit of some, like say werewolves, they're kind of feral looking. Some may or may not wear clothing. Of course, it's more like, of course, as you go from regular animal towards the human scale, there's also like a degree of clothing that seems to come along. For instance, in these movies, like Zootopia, for instance, as you can clearly see, Nick, he's wearing a green t-shirt with a tie and a pair of pants, and we got Officer Judy, who's wearing the uniform of a police officer. Although others, for instance Bugs Bunny, he may or may not be wearing clothes, although apparently he's wearing gloves, white gloves. Apparently. And then we have Mickey Mouse. Again, he's wearing gloves, and he seems to be wearing a pair of red shorts that have a set of suspenders in most depictions. Although with the female characters, usually they're wearing some sort of blouse of some sort. They're usually wearing a top. And other possible characteristics of other possible human characteristics might, well, at least with females is that they're, basically their breasts, shall we say, are more up towards where that of a human would be, as opposed to a little bit down lower, where they normally would be. Although with cows, that's an interesting one. When they make them, they have these ones, and then they have the udders. Although in real life, where cows are concerned, while where four things are the normal, sometimes they do have 6, okay? So, artistic license. In fact, when it comes to Anthros, a lot of artistic license is done, where especially if the female Anthro in question is being drawn for what's known as fan service, you know, to make them look appealing, which can be understandable to a certain degree. And like I said, usually it's like the more human the Anthro gets, the more clothes they're wearing. Of course, again, this might also depict how their society operates, where do they place an emphasis on wearing clothes or not? For instance, in, like I said, Zootopia. I'm just using this because it's right here within my reach. They're fully clothed most of the time, with the exception of the naturalist scene, which is depicted as most people would if they found themselves at a place where everybody is naked. But, you know, it's kind of played like that. But, as I said, most of these guys in Zootopia, most people are fully clothed. And then let's say keep on going past this hybrid form, which is a mixture of, and also you have humans. You have just the human, where the body itself is human, but they have the head of an animal. A good example of that would be the cover to this book, which is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, basically. Very nice, very good book. Very well done. It's essentially Beauty and the Beast set in 1905, San Francisco. It's a pretty decent book. Now, mind you, I'm not advertising them. I'm just using them as examples because this is the sort of thing I tend to enjoy. And, you know, like I said, you have those with a human body, but have the head of an animal, which may or may not also include a tail, of the tail of said animal. Hand paws may or may not be involved, but they're there. It's a possibility. And then a little bit further towards human, we have beings who look human, except for the ears and the possibility of a tail. For instance, there's the Japanese Nekkos, and Nekko is Japanese for cat. But again, you have other similar beings like Inus, like Inuyasha. He's a dog demon. He has the ears of a dog. And like with the Inuyasha, let's go with that one. We have different demons, or Yari, I think that's the name, I think that's the name for demons. Like say with Kovu, well, there's a bunch of different demons. I'm thinking of this particular wolf demon. I think his name, Kovu might be his name. And he's a wolf. He looks human, but he's got the ears of a wolf and the tail of a wolf. Then there's Shippo, cute little fox. He's a kid who is a fox demon, but he's got the ears of, but he looks human, has the ears of a fox and the tail of a fox. And that sort of character, again, pretty popular. And so, like I said, and then of course you get to humans. And like I said, within this range of human and animal, you have a lot of variety. Like I said, you got those who have just the ears, and you got those who have just the head, and then you got those that have like a mid-form, and then you eventually get to talking animal. Quite a bit of a spectrum. So, what kind of genres do these pop up in? Well, sci-fi and fantasy, as well as science fantasy, would be what you depict most of these sort of things. Of course, there's also urban fantasy, and so the question is, what are their origins? Well, going with Zootopia, the backstory is humans never evolved. In fact, you watch this movie, there's no primates, there's no apes, there's no chimpanzees, there's no gorillas. Because of this, since there's no primates, there was no way that humans themselves could have evolved. That being said, every other animal evolved, at the very least, a group who achieved sapiency and became humanoid, for lack of a better word, such as our titular characters. And in fact, one could argue, what do the carnivores eat? Because there's even some talk about, apparently the carnivores used to eat the herbivores way back when, although these days they don't do that. But there's even a bit of a question: what do they eat? Although that sort of topic is sort of alluded to, and general idea is they eat protein bars that are made from fish and insects. And then with the Sing, the question is, what do they eat? In fact, there's even a scene where the one little mouse seems to run afoul of some polar bear, who's basically got into the wrong end of a dispute with a bunch of bears and is in danger of being eaten. It's just kind of scary when you think about it. And then you got Tigress in the back here for Kung Fu Panda. Word of God, well, basically word of God is she eats tofu. In fact, there's even a trope called vegetarian carnivore, which actually has her picture and has her eating tofu. And that one is, again, artistic. It's licensed biology that has carnivore, in which it has a carnivore character eating plant matter. That being said, depending on how you set up the world, it could be that for the carnivores, there is indeed these, as I mentioned in my what would meat-eating creatures eat, that depending on how the world is done, that there is indeed, non-anthropomorphic animals that the predators could eat. And in a number of cases, this is indeed done, that they have these non-anthropomorphic animals to eat. And then you got worlds where the food chain itself is still intact. There's one webcomic called Kevin and Kel, which involves a rabbit who is married to a wolf, and she's still a predator who still goes out and still hunts. Although apparently there's rules around it. Ooh. But, although usually it's not dwelt on. That being said, there are certain stories that do talk about that sort of topic, about what carnivore anthros actually eat, and how it's all done can vary. And that is all I'm going to say about that. So, just why are they so popular? I mean, why are they used? Well, one reason is that for many people, it's much easier for them to take a cat or a dog or any other animal and make them stand on two legs and be able to have thumbs and fingers and have them do human activities such as eat with a fork and knife, and they find drawing these anthropomorphic characters to be much easier than drawing humans. And why is that? Well, it's possible that it's hard for them to draw individual humans. On the other hand, animals are kind of easier because you have a whole slew of species that you can draw them all and you can tell each one apart. Because Rover here's a dog, Sally here's a cat, Rex over there is a chihuahua. No, I mean, not chihuahua, a hamster. You know, and you can have them do, you know, and like say, if you're just drawing about dogs, there's a wide range of dogs you could utilize. You have your Dalmatians, you have German Shepherds, the other different Shepherds, the Retrievers, Chihuahuas, Dobermans. You have a wide range of dogs that you don't need to make them all look alike. That they don't look alike, and then some people who have it. And for instance, I'll be honest with you. When it comes to drawing, I'm no good at drawing. I'll be honest with you on that one. But with some people, they have a hard time being able to make different humans. It's like, how do I come up with this? Because in some cases, the humans, they have essentially the same sort of skin tone. It might be difficult to differentiate between one red-headed male with pale skin and another red-headed male with pale skin, for instance. Whereas with say, humanoid dogs, you can make one that's yellow, and then you make another one and make him brown, and then take another, make him black, and then take another, make him white with black spots. And right there, you got 4 different characters who are instantly different. And sometimes we are able to use this and to create different stories. Like, what did like for instance, it's like we can, whereas, like I said, we might have a hard time telling the difference between the different humans, or they have a hard time drawing different humans, unless we do something that makes the human stand out from every other human, such as give them huge eyeglasses, or have really freaky looking hair, or give them that scar that says I'm different, or perhaps give them that jaw It says, I am a hero, and I know how to solve America's problems. Yeah, I mean, different things. Whereas, like I said, this can be difficult for people to draw over and over and over. Whereas, like I said, with the dogs, you have a yellow one, you have a brown one, you have a black one, you have a white one with black spots. 4 different characters, and you can draw them doing different things, and you can tell them all apart. And of course, with different animals, again, if you have, for instance, a tiger, a wolf, a bear, and a mouse, again, you can have them all doing different things. It's like, you can instantly identify the tiger, the wolf, the bear, and the mouse. You can instantly identify all of these guys. Whereas 4 pale-faced humans with red hair, you're not going to instantly remember which one did what. Wait a minute, are you sure this one was the one that did? Yes, he was the one. I thought it was this one that did that one. No, that would be this one that did that one. Whereas with, like I said, the 4 dogs, yellow, brown, black, white with black spots, you can at least say that the yellow one was the one who punched the brown one in the face, and that the black and white one grabbed a hold of the yellow one as well, and pulled him away, as well as the black one pulled the brown one away before things came to blows, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, and you may not be able to remember the names, but you can at least identify the features real quickly. And I mean, at least that's a good way to deal with certain artists. Of course, especially if you're not really that good at drawing them. So, like I said, inexperienced artist needs 4 instant characters, or readily identified and readily different from each one. Anthros is a safe way to do this. Making humanoid animals. Now, what else about these Anthros? In many cases, they are depicted as having characteristics stereotypical of their animal parts. For instance, a pig Anthro might be depicted as being something of a glutton. Or alternatively, they can even say, when someone says, hey, there's a buffet over there, and the guy can say, nah, I'm on a diet, and he only eats a plate of salad, no ranch. But, just a salad. Not even any ranch. Or, for instance, you have a dog. They're usually depicted as being guard dogs. Yeah, you could probably have the guy instant security guard or instant police officer. Or, alternatively, they'll be lazy, doing nothing while the thieves make off with everything. Or, alternatively, he's the mastermind who just went in and robbed the place and blamed that fox over there. Because everyone knows a fox is shifty and sly. Although I think Nick hates me. I mean, like I said, with the Zootopia example, foxes, they're considered to be shifty and sly. And yeah, Nick, he does depict the sly part and the shifty part. But when you find out why, you sympathize with the guy about how when he was a kid he wanted to join the Scouts. And they put a muzzle on him. Talk about a bunch of mean kids. They put a muzzle on the fox. On the fox cub. The kid just wanted to be part of a pack. And Who knows what he would have been if the other guys had welcomed him into the group. But instead, he decides, well, if I can't be seen as anything other than sly and shifty, then I might as well be sly and shifty. And of course, he becomes a con artist. But as it turns out, he's decent, you know. And, yeah, after he toys with Judy enough, and finds out that she's on a serious time limit, it's like, okay. He decides, okay, I hate this guy. He's being a bully. And decides that he's going to intervene. You know, and actually, honestly, helps Judy out. So that way they can solve the case. And later on becomes, spoiler alert, well, he ends up becoming an officer. Towards the end of the movie. I'm not going to spoil some of the other stuff, although granted it's been a few years and odds are most of us have seen it, so, but still, I'm not going to spoil all the villain's plot, you know, if you haven't seen it, but I will spoil a little bit about Nick, about how he starts off as a con artist, and how he meets up with Judy and eventually helps her. I mean, at first he's kind of jerking her around and pulling her through one stunt or another, but he does come around to helping her out, and because of this he eventually goes through the police academy and graduates and becomes Judy's partner at the end, which is kind of heartwarming. Again, we have some of the other characteristics. We have this pig here. She's got at least a dozen children. Pigs are known for having big litters. So it might sound like, oh great, she had 10 kids all at once. Well, if you dealt with pigs, 10 piglets, not that unusual. You have the porcupine. Her quills are always going all over. In fact, she's a rocker, and so she does that head banging thing. And you got quills going everywhere. You know, I think whenever she goes on stage, everybody should ought to wear safety glasses. That way they don't have to worry about their eyes getting poked at. And then we have Johnny. He's the gorilla. A little bit about him. His father is a thief, and they're always pulling off one heist or another. And Dad wants Johnny to follow in his footsteps. Johnny, on the other hand, he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to be a criminal. And he wants to move away from being a thug. And that being said, gorillas are depicted as being strong, and as it turns out, during one scene, Johnny proves just how strong he is when he rescues another singer who is in danger, you know, by getting them out of the way of danger by using his strength. So there's that. And of course, and then we have Poe. He's in many cases, I'm not quite sure if pandas themselves are lazy, but in the village, a lot of them are kind of laid back, you know, just enjoying themselves, you know. It's like, water off a dog, it's like, don't worry about a thing. basically, is their philosophy, apparently. And we have Tigress. In the first film, she is serious. And very serious. And it's basically her interactions with Poe that cause her to soften, to lighten up a bit. And, like I said, Anthros, and so, let's get to summing up. Anthros are basically humanoid beings with certain characteristics and looks from animals, but with the personalities of humans, and certain instincts from the various animals that they are based off. And they can be found in all mediums and in any genre that contains some sort of science fiction or fantasy. And in fact, some of their origins are that either that they evolved naturally, or in the case of science fiction, some sort of science was utilized. Some of them might have even been humans with animal DNA added to them, or alternatively, they are animals with human DNA added to them, depending on which way you want to do it. And then you have, and for fantasy, you typically have magic being the cause of this anthropomorphism. Also in science fiction, there's a possibility that said Anthros are actually aliens from another world. So, and we have, like I said, there's all sorts, and they've been around for thousands of years. So, doesn't matter when or where you want to set them, feel free to do it. Now, this is Fantasy Reality, and this is it for this episode. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode.